Chrome has gobbled up all your memory.
Yes, just it decided to take all, just a little bit. It wanted all.
Yeah, I'm kicking myself because I ordered Jimmy John's about an hour ago and I realized I forgot to click submit order. I was just flitting from meeting to meeting, and I'm like, why aren't they here yet? Starting to get hangry. So I think there's only a few professions that can truly understand eating on the fly all the time, like
Oh,
engineers can. Like, are you in the car? Are you gonna be like hiding under a desk trying to like shove in this sandwich while rerouting something? You know, I
all
became
right.
the
So
king of eating a lunch in less than 5 minutes. Like, get in the car, swing through a Burger King, grab a meal, finish it while driving to the next client.
so you set me up for the perfect, old man story from Skip. So way back in the 90s, the we were just called computer stores back then. It was before the MSP moniker, but working for a company, we had a cabling crew, and we did a lot of banks and pulling out stuff for 3274 cluster controllers, IBM 3274 cluster controllers.
Wow.
And so we're moving from old technology to new switched Ethernet. So anyway, we got a cabling crew. They're running all night. It's been a couple of hours, and someone's going. Can't remember the guy's name, but they're like, "Where's he at? Has anybody seen him? Is he still here? What happened?" And so they go looking for him, and then they get a little panicked because they can't find him, and the bank is locked, so no one's getting in or out. So like, what's going on? And so they go looking, and finally they found him. He's underneath a desk. He's got a sandwich in his lap, and he's got cable and a punch connector in one hand, and he's sound asleep. He was trying to eat, work, and just simply fell asleep under the desk, and no one could find him. So you set me up perfectly for that story. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. Like, there's been times where like, okay, I can close my eyes just for a few minutes.
Yeah,
No, it's a trap.
that's right. That's right.
So we've got a fair amount of people here today. Even though I messed up the Nan this week again, it's like my routine thing. That's the thing is like you get a genuine email that's handwritten every week, and the problem with that is you get the human flaws that come with that. So if it's an automated email that we were typing weeks in advance, you would get that nice sterile feeling. But you guys are getting a raw newsletter that's actually written with our actual thoughts on what's going on today. But that means occasionally we mess things up. So I believe that the agenda in the email this week is for the agenda from last week. So this week it's part 2 of the preparations or ending up your quarter 1. So if we have the roadmap over here where I talk through like what we're doing every week. And so last week, meet with customers and plan Q2 activities. Very important. So we're going to continue that conversation this week. So now that you have sent out your agenda, you have planned out the meeting, you've read the books on how to have a great meeting. Now, what more is there to know? So one of the things that you need to know for this week, and that we'll spend some time on, is the content of the meeting needs to be more than look how great we were last quarter. And that's a very big focus of last week was look at what we did and here's what we plan to talk about. So what I want to do is help you guys focus on what's coming up next quarter. I'm going to put Skip a little bit on the spot here because we're going to talk about quotes next week, and we'll kind of summarize quarter 1 in 2 weeks. But what I want to put Skip on is like, what do people usually talk about in QBRs when they say, hey, let's talk about forecasting. What's coming up in the next quarter? What do people usually talk about?
Well, we immediately want to go to the projects that we're trying to get them to buy.
So you're saying I shouldn't do that?
Probably not. All right. So I think we get into a sales cycle on those. We say, hey, let's we talked about it last quarter, maybe. Let's buy it now. Is that price okay? And I think we're kind of continuing this conversation a little bit, but it's out of alignment. It's about pushing towards what are we going to do in your business this quarter? And that's where, so here's an interesting part. And if you're trying to drive the conversation in your QBRs, I would make an argument that you're doing it wrong. So your agenda items and your talking points need to have elements to them that are questions.
Yes.
We need to be bringing the clients. So look over your agenda. What you're talking about. Are you just making a bunch of statements? Are you reading from the teleprompter in these? We don't want those. You really want that conversation. So now there are times when we do have to deliver some information. Again, always, put these real world, what I feel are real world, elements out there, that things we have to do. But perhaps maybe, again, when we're focusing on that agenda, maybe we reorganize this a little bit, and maybe we put more of our open-ended questions at the beginning to create an environment where we're getting this feedback from our clients, where we're getting conversation from them, and really let them, within the confines of what we're doing on the agenda, let them drive the conversation some.
So the easy way to wrap up what Skip just said. I did not skip
too many words
there for this meeting. This was point blank Skip. And so is to wrap that up is be curious. If you walked in there with a PowerPoint and a script and you're demanding them give you money for the projects that you want to do next quarter, you may or may not sell those projects, depending on how great you are at tap dancing. Then it's all on raw sales skill.
Yeah.
You can transfer that sales skill into and reduce the risk of losing the project by being curious. Put that on a piece of paper when you walk in the meeting and say, be curious. Mm-hmm. What are they doing this next quarter? And when they say things, you can be like, oh, this might be a great time to pitch that VoIP project. This might be a great time to pitch that block, because that's going to help them next quarter. So if you walk in and ask questions like Skip said, if you walk in and you're curious about next quarter, that's how you forecast out a quarter. Because you've got 10,000 projects in your head that you can sell these people on. Which ones are they interested in? That you'll know if you ask questions and you're curious about what they're going to do. So when they say, oh yeah, we're going to try to move more employees to work from home, or we're going to try to upgrade, we want to really help customers feel more comfortable with Floofy, their dog, at the kennel. Whatever it is, whatever project they're pushing out, like, is there a technology component to that you can be pitching them?
Yeah.
They don't know the things that you do. They don't know there are better ways to live stream webcams in a dog kennel. They don't know that there are better ways to work from home and create landing zones for their employees. They don't know all this stuff, but what they do know is what they are going to push money into so that they can generate more revenue. That is a QBR, people.
Yeah.
The number of webinars I sit on and watch people talk about how to do better QBRs. How many times have you guys heard? Maybe I'm just on the wrong ones. How many times have you guys heard, be curious and discover what your client is doing? How often does that happen in a QBR presentation? Usually it's how to have better life cycle for warranty lookup, or how to present your tickets in a meaningful fashion. Maybe the next thing is how to push projects and sell without selling. It's all of these things, but it's rarely how do you discover what your client needs.
Yeah. And now let me play a little devil's advocate here. So, I've been in, a lot of these meetings as well, and I've seen people, whether they were trying to do something or maybe they just weren't that good at what they were doing, they've tried to structure the meeting where this open-ended deal. And it starts off with, hey, how you doing? Some little casual talk and the like. So, hey, so what's going on? Tell me about, how things are going. And it's too open-ended, right? You're just kind of, you come off as unprepared. and the conversations derail into sports or politics or whatever. And so yes, what we have to shield against that, the agenda is going to help you do that. So you can show up with an agenda, but the agenda doesn't have to have all the answers on it. All right. So remember that when you go into these meetings, you want to uncover data. You don't want, the expectation is not that you show up with all the data. Make sure you keep that in mind. And so maybe we drill these down a little bit. Take the headlines out and use those, so rising gas prices, hey, is that really affecting your business? How are your employees dealing with that? Again, some open-ended questions, but back to their staff, their business, what's it doing? Ask about their customers. Talk to your clients about their customers. Is the rising gas prices affecting your customers? Is that going to trickle down into your business? Ask some somewhat specific, but again, very leading questions to drive these conversations. So I'm guessing Jimmy John's is showing up here. And from that, you're going to establish a base. And I think in many aspects, we just really need to turn this pyramid upside down. We've been doing a lot of this in our meetings already, but we start out with all the really specific stuff. Let's talk about the spreadsheet. Let's talk about the quotes, and then lots of times you'll realize you'll work your way through these meetings and think about some of your meetings that were two qualities. They were good, but they were really long. All right. And if you think about those, you'll realize that the really good part was the latter part of the meeting. And it was the unstructured stuff many times that you're talking about. So let's flip that around. Let's get to the good parts first. And then if we need to send them a spreadsheet to have them review later, that's fine. Email works great for that.
I think that's even a podcast. Isn't Get to the Good Part a podcast that's out there right now?
If it's not, we need to make it one. That sounds really good.
I know. Get to the good part. Well, and we sound like broken records, but this is the core of the QBR. So last week we talked about this. We talked so much about the meeting structure and what to talk about. And there's a section in there that we talked about, and it was what happened and what's going to happen. So, what is something that we did well and something that we can do better, and what can we do now? So if you think about that format, and then what can we do now section is, hey, what's coming up this next quarter for your business? Tell us, in 5 minutes, what your next 3 months looks like for Dog Kennels R Us.
All right.
And if you put it into that context, you're going to get a lot of information. And I've talked about this in the podcast. I've talked about this in community updates. You have to put things in context, just like what Skip said. You can't just ask him a vague question and hope for a concise answer. And stupid questions get stupid answers. So you ask pointed questions that are open-ended. So, for instance, if you ask your kid, how was your day? They'll say, good.
Yeah.
End of conversation. Now, if you ask your kid, hey, how was science today? You get a story. Same thing with any conversation in your life. If you walk into a networking event and say, hey, how are you doing, sir? And you'll get the generic, oh, cool. Hey, I'm good. Oh, and you get the standard elevator speech. But if you ask them a specific question saying, hey, what do you think about the new Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer last night? Anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody?
Yeah.
I've watched it about 30 times now, so I'm like just...
Oh, no, you're picking Easter eggs out of it, aren't you?
Oh, my gosh. I mean... I could go on for like 20 minutes on that alone because you hit on something that I care about.
Yep.
And so by asking that open-ended question, like, what do you think about this? Hey, what's going on in your business next quarter? And say, hey, what are you doing with your product line? Or what are you doing with your kennels? And how are you making things go forwards? And so you ask them specific questions. Hold on, my secretary's here. All right, give me that.
Yeah, and so again, I kind of keep circling around here on this, but in that agenda, maybe you start out with that, and maybe it really is pretty open-ended, and you're not quite certain how to narrow that down a little bit. So I'm looking at our attendees list. I know a lot of you guys, I'm looking here, you've got some staff you're working with. So some of you guys, we're really preaching to the choir on this. And I know that, and that's cool. I like talking with you guys because I try to listen more from you guys than I talk, but maybe you're mentoring some junior staff here and you want to standardize this process throughout your organization. Start with your meeting agenda.
Yep.
You can set the structure. So getting really practical here, go into your template for whatever reports they're using and generate a framework in the meeting agenda. We've got one in there. Maybe that works for you. Maybe you've got something else. That's fine. But have a framework in there. And then here's where you can really help those junior people is put a time frame on that. Maybe you're really going to open this up to general business status or whatever. All right. And you put be specific. All right. Don't do 5 minutes. All right. Because that's too vague. Put 7 minutes there. Right. 7 minutes. And the expectation. And of course, we're using the tool. We've got it up on a shared screen. Everyone's able to see the agenda. They see where we're at. And so you're talking to your client and go, I want to spend a first few minutes here just getting a feel for your business. Can you tell me how things are going?
Yeah.
All right. That's not a pointed question at all. That's almost like how's your day? But if you put that up on the screen and you say, hey, we've got 7 minutes to talk about this, you're providing a framework, and your clients are going to feel like you've got
events happening,
a structure here. Yes.
What are the top 3 events? 7 minutes to explain what your business is doing. And so having that box around your conversation. So I see a lot of people on this call, and I'm encouraging you to say, Shane, you keep popping on and off for some reason. It's like a blinking red light off in the corner. Anyways, is to, in your head, when you're in this meeting, have that 7 to 13 minutes as part of your agenda where it says, tell me about what's coming up. Top 3 things affecting the company this next quarter. Maybe they're going to say the Russian politics are really playing heck on your ability to do business for whatever reason, because your primary clientele is overseas. Right. Or maybe you've got something going on with, hey, you're a trucking company. Gas prices are causing you to restrict your budget really severely. And so you need to find new ways of finding more efficient shipping. Whatever it is, you want to get on board. You want to go through this together with them. It's a QBR, people. It's a business review. And if you don't spend that 7 to 15 minutes talking about their business and giving them that platform to teach you what's going on, then you're losing out on an insane opportunity and a lot of cash. Because once again, when you walk in the door and you ask them what's going on with their business this next quarter, you're now, of those 30 projects that are in your head you need to do with them, 3 of them just jump to the surface. Oh my gosh, now is the perfect time for us to work on their laptops, work on their mobile devices, because they're not doing as much work this next quarter. They're going to have a lot of people back in the home office. We're going to be able to upgrade a lot of their stuff really quickly. Now you can take advantage of the business situation, and you're helping them grow their business at the same time. I can guarantee, I'm looking at the list of people on this call. Every one of you can walk into any of your clients and have 30 projects that you can just list out for them. Which ones of them are they ready to buy? You don't have to guess. Let them tell you.
That's it.
We are not, well, we're not the farthest from any point in the ocean. That goes to like South Dakota.
You're close enough.
We are the only double landlocked state in the nation, I believe. Us in South Dakota, I think. So, yes, I ordered tuna. Anyways, it's the most well preserved of all fish. But the point is that I wanted to hit this really hard. Skip hits it hard every time. Is that in these meetings, be curious. Use that what's coming up section of your meeting agenda to not talk about what projects are coming up, because everybody knows on a project timeline, you'll have your time to say, oh yeah, so we're going to do these projects next quarter. That's great. That's an operational update. You need to have that set aside time in your agenda that says, what's coming up? Please tell me about your business. That needs to be part of the agenda. And if they start talking about tickets that are overdue, you failed. You should have talked about that before the meeting, or you can talk about that after the meeting. They say, well, there's this ticket that's been out there for the past rounds. Like, hey, I know you're really concerned about that. I'm going to put it down. You write it down. Let's talk about it after the meeting, and I will make sure it gets prioritized. You just got rid of a derail right there. You did it in a kind and professional way. That's my tip for you guys to not derail meetings. Right now, I need to learn from you, because I've only got a couple minutes to learn about what's coming up next quarter, so I can tell the engineers to get off their asses and help you guys. You're the advocate. This is a business review. I'm aligning with you.
Yeah. And again, I keep looking at our attendees list, and I know we've got a lot of you guys that do this really, really well. So let me caution you not to fall into some of the traps. So you do this well. So this is top of mind for me, because I was on a onboarding call this morning. Chris, I don't see you, but I think you check out our update on the recording, since you're over in the UK a little bit later. Anyway, and so on a meeting this morning, I've kind of got my stuff that I run through. Obviously, I do these meetings all day long, and I was about to just launch into the next section. Here we go, this and this and this and this. But whether I was just a little slower getting a drink, or I had, a moment to breathe and listen. And Chris started talking about all the stuff that he's already doing and the perspectives that he's on. And now I'm realizing, I didn't really know where he was at here. And rather than me talking for, 5 or 6 minutes and him trying to use a crowbar to get in and, say, hey, I've already done all that. Stopped and I listened and let him describe what he's going to do. Great meeting. We came away, with a better set of activities that we're on the same page with than me just giving him information. So for those of you that get good at this, don't be too confident in how good you are. Really, really, try to always push yourself to listen and let your clients run with that.
Yeah, and that's another thing you put on top of your page is be curious and listen. Learn about your clients and what they do. It'll be the best 15 minutes of your meeting, I guarantee. And make sure it doesn't go over, because sometimes they can get on a roll and talking about business, make sure you're watching that clock so that when they end that 15 minutes or that 7 minutes or whatever you've allotted for the next quarter, then you can say, thank you. That was awesome. If you get more information, I'd love to have a further conversation with you next week about X, Y, or Z as a takeaway from there. And you'll get better at this. The first time you do it, you won't be 100% on time. But the more you ask this question, the better you'll be at jotting a note down and saying, "Ooh, I should really ask them about how they want to do how their fleet management is going," because I know we have some fleet management software we can sell them. These are things that you can write down. The other thing that's great about this section, this is my pro tip for everyone on the call or anybody watching this on YouTube. Stop them at peak adventure. So when I worked as a camp counselor, we learned something called peak adventure. I don't know if Skip knows this story or not. You never stop playing a game when kids are tired.
Yep.
You stop playing a game when they're excited about it, because then they want to do it again. And so when you're in a conversation, don't let the conversation wither. If the conversation is going to wither, it's going to happen. I think it's something like every 7.5 minutes, a conversation withers.
Heard something about that. How it changes subjects and all. Yeah.
Lull, or it's a sociological construct in our brains. So if you find that the conversation is going really well and it's really getting energized, cool. You've learned what you need to know. This is great, guys, and I want to talk about this more, but let's move on to the next section.
Yep.
They're like, oh, but I have so much more to say. Cool. Now they want you back. That's called peak adventure. So, you stop a kid in the middle of not in the middle of the game, don't disrupt the game, but they get done with the game, they want to play another one? No. Let's move on to something else. We'll come back to this game tomorrow. So they have something to look forward to all day, and they're riding that high for the rest of the day. But if they get to the point where they're just getting tired of the game, now they're worn for the next one. So when you're doing topics, in your meetings, make sure you're observing some of those rules around, like, I think it's 7.5 minutes. God, for some reason that's in my head.
We made jokes of that for a while there, and we made so many jokes on it that I don't know what's real or
Yeah, I
made up
know
anymore.
we're inceptioning ourselves or whatever that's called.
Well,
Anyways, but I want you to guys to keep that in mind when you're talking about business for that 15 minutes, when you're gathering that information and they're on a roll. Make sure that you don't let it go too long, because then they'll kind of burn out. You'll burn out, and it'll be like, oh, that went too long, and then you don't have time for the rest of your meeting. You want this meeting to be packed. You want this meeting to be valuable. So like when you switch from one topic to another, like, all right, that's all we have for that. We did 10 minutes. We need to switch over to this other one. And be like, but I have so much more to say. Cool. Let's have a side conversation in another meeting. And some of the conversations are not going to go 10 minutes. They're going to go 5 minutes, and you'll feel that pressure in the room. If you're really good at reading people, you'll feel that pressure and switch over to the next topic when you feel like the conversation is about to wither. And that's how you run an effective meeting, and you keep it highly energetic. And so that the next time you're like, oh man, I love that meeting. That guy knows how to run a meeting. Everybody was engaged. Everybody was in contact. And that's because you're not letting the conversation dither and wander around. You're keeping it on task. So when you have the 15 minutes, don't be afraid to cut it off.
Yep.
Because you do need to cover the other things. And you want these 4 or 5 things you're talking about in this meeting all to be high energy, information packed, and then you have a reason to follow up with your client in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we need to follow up on that conversation about fleet management. You didn't solve the problem in the meeting. You created a talking point for the stakeholders that need to talk about that in 4 weeks. And now everybody's excited about meeting with you again. Maybe they bring in the CEO because it's a passion project for them. You'll finally start collecting stakeholders this way.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. It is a great feeling.
Now, let me touch back on that mentoring topic just a little bit, because again, I'm looking who's here today, and I know a lot of you do this. So, Adam and I have been on the EOS traction methodology for a while, and if you're familiar with that, there is a really, really important element at the end of every meeting. And what is it? You rate the meeting 1 to 10. How was this meeting? So in terms of those that you may be mentoring, pull them in and say, hey, let's think about the last 3 meetings, the meetings you had last week, this week, whatever. We don't have to, have an exhaustive data set here, but encourage those maybe junior account managers, junior VCOs to talk more about the parts of the meeting that they thought went really, really well, and dive into that, uncover, why did this go well? Well, the client started talking about this, or I learned something here, and really kind of bring to light why these meetings, that at least the parts of them, why they were so good. And when you do that, you get a lot more buy-in in these structured approach. People understand why you're creating an agenda item that asks these questions. And they go, oh yeah, well, when we ask them this way, we get this really good feedback. And so, you create some energy there with your teams, and you can roll these out. And here's where it gets really cool, is you kind of get these frameworks established, and then you can standardize on this. And you can feel better, especially if you're an owner. You can feel much, much more confident that your team is going out and engaging with clients in meaningful ways, and you're getting the information that you need, rather than just providing a tool for your team and say, hey, use the tool. All right. Give them a little bit more structure, a little bit more guidance in that.
Yeah. So to sum up, work the meeting so that you're learning about the business. And then next week, we're going to talk about how to fit this into quotes. So you've had these business discovery meetings, or you've gone through this session, and now you're out of the QBR, and you need to say, oh, how do I quote this? So in our software, we have some great ways to soft quote things and to send things to your clients that they care about. And a core part of Quotes R Us, which is what I call next week, is that you understand what the business initiatives are with your clients. If you don't know that, you cannot quote appropriately. Yes, you can send a project to them, and if you have a really good salesperson, they can convince them that they need it. But if you just want to align with your companies or your clients, learn about what their initiatives are and line up your projects with them so that they synergize. And when we do that, we sell so much more. And that's what next week is about. Quotes are us. Again, everybody needs to check out the YouTube channel. I have been doing a great job of updating it. I feel very proud. I think it's really coming along well for a guy who knows nothing about YouTube and how it works. So feel free to go out there. All of our Humanized IT podcasts are out there. Skip gets very self-conscious because he didn't know I was recording the video. So you can see him pick his nose, you know.
No, don't pick my nose. Just play with my beard too much.
You know, like flip off the camera, whatever he does. So you can watch our podcasts out there. You can watch all the community updates for 2022 are out there. And a lot of our skill building videos are getting pushed out there right now. So you can always find our weekly pushes out there. Any community update you've missed, any that your team members need to see, like, oh, that was a really great one. I need everybody else to see it. It's on YouTube. It's part of our playlist. So go out there, check it out, give us some likes and thumbs up. So evidently that's an important thing in the social media world. Anyways,
Show them
like 2 views on them because I just uploaded them. So anyways, go out, check that stuff out. Always be looking out there. Subscribe to the channel. That way, if you ever miss community update or a podcast, you'll get it. So thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you all next week for Quoting Are Us.
Thanks, everyone.